Good evening, everyone. I'm Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon, founder of the Zen Art Center and the Mind Light Way School of Zen. I give these talks on the third Thursday of every month from 7 to 8, and you can also find them anytime at the Zen Art Center YouTube channel. As we go through life, we're constantly required to make decisions without having all of the information we need to fully understand the consequences of our actions. We always operate with incomplete data, which creates uncertainty about what will happen next. In this sense, life is like an incomplete puzzle, but it's an especially difficult puzzle because we can't fathom what the finished picture would look like. We have to guess, and we don't even have all the pieces. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we've figured out certain parts of the puzzle, but even that feels like a stretch. The reality we live in is dynamic and constantly changing. Whether we like to admit it or not, we don't really understand how things work. Instead, we put our faith in convenient fictional narratives as long as they're helpful for us surviving. Now, we do know a lot of useful information about our world and the universe, and I'm not suggesting that we should disregard that, but it's just as important to acknowledge the limits of our knowledge. What we don't know far exceeds what we do know. So what's the best way to navigate this situation? How do you work on a puzzle when you don't understand the big picture and you know you're missing pieces? This is your koan for today's class. In Zen, koans are questions, statements, or stories that highlight the limitations of our knowledge and point us toward a truth beyond what we know. They reveal the gaps in our understanding, the missing parts of the puzzle. A koan is a probe into the empty space of the unknown. When you probe that emptiness, sometimes you get nothing, or you get more questions. These are signs that you need to keep going. Also, sometimes you do get a response back, perhaps some new information, or sometimes it's just more questions. Either way, you have to decide what to do with that experience. If the response gives you new information, you can test it out to find out if it's useful or not. If you keep a healthy amount of skepticism and doubt, the insight you gain from the process can help you figure out how things fit together and also what's still missing. So before we meditate today, let's send a probe into our mind and see what we can discover about ourselves. Perhaps if we understand ourselves a little bit better, it'll help us navigate the ever-shifting puzzle of our lives. So ask yourself, what makes you who you are? What is at the center of your being? What is the origin of everything that makes you who you are? Ask yourself these questions. Then try to completely clear your mind. See if you can observe the place where your thoughts originate so that you can better understand the part of you that determines how you interact with the world. One technique that I teach to help people clear their mind is sitting meditation. So before we get into that, let's just begin with a little breathing exercise. Imagine now that you're breathing with your heart. You can also place your hand on your heart and close your eyes if you'd like. Just keep breathing a little bit slower and deeper as I talk. The purpose of this is to try to align our mind, heart, and body. This is a technique you can use to reset yourself whenever you feel nervous or anxious, or whenever you need to feel the need to switch gears from different activities you're doing throughout the day. You can use it when you wake up, before you enter a stressful meeting, before you go to sleep, or before you meditate. So let's just take a few more moments and take some slow and deep breaths. Now we're going to move into a mantra meditation. For this, when you sit, you want to have your legs crossed and try and keep your neck and back straight so that you're not slouching. And you can put your hands, right hand, left hand, touching your thumbs and centered in your lap. If you get uncomfortable in this position, you can always stand up and stretch out. Just try to be respectful of the people meditating around you. The word mantra literally translates to mean a tool to liberate the mind. The mantra is the focal point of meditation. It could be anything, but in sitting meditation, it's usually a word or a phrase that's repeated within your mind. We use the mantra to help us clear our mind so that we can directly experience our mind when it's completely free and unhindered by our thoughts. If you try not to think, thoughts will inevitably come into your mind. By focusing on the mantra, you can use it to push out all of the other thoughts. As you meditate, only concentrate on your mantra. If any thought comes into your mind, just let it pass and return to focusing on your mantra. You can use anything as your mantra during this meditation, but if you don't have a mantra you want to use, I usually suggest using the mantra of Kwanseum Bosal. Kwanseum Bosal is the name of the bodhisattva of love and compassion in Korean Zen. A bodhisattva is an enlightened teacher who's dedicated their life to helping others. Kwanseum Bosal is often depicted with thousands of eyes and hands and is said to be able to see the suffering of everyone and help those who call out her name. Using this mantra will bring compassionate energy into your mind while you meditate, and that will help you relax and clear your mind. Once again, the mantra is Kwanseum Bosal. And now we're going to stand up and turn around and meditate in our spots for about 20 minutes or so. So we can stand up and just turn around. All right, you can turn up and stand up and turn around. So our world, our universe, and our reality is a dynamic and mysterious puzzle. During our lives, we try to understand how our pieces fit in with our world. But this puzzle isn't static. Not only are we discovering missing pieces, we're often creating them, shaping our understanding of how things fit together with our experiences and what we observe. The stories we tell ourselves about these experiences become our narratives. This process is also an essential part of science. Science begins with an observation. We experience a phenomenon, then form a hypothesis, which is an educated guess about what happened. Then, through controlled experiments, we collect data to test the hypothesis and evaluate whether our predictions hold up, or whether the evidence contradicts it. Whether the hypothesis is confirmed or disproven, this process gives us useful information. Scientific models are working narratives, tools we use to navigate reality. But these models are provisional. They evolve as we gather new data. To keep learning, we must accept the limits of what we know and the limitations of our narratives. We have to keep observing, keep testing, and keep refining. As far as we can tell, this process could continue on forever, always moving closer to, but never arriving at a theory that fully explains everything. In this way, science gets closer to the truth without ever claiming to possess it. It reveals patterns in nature, not permanence. It's a process of drawing a map of reality, and it's a useful tool for navigating reality. But in order for the map to be effective, you still need a compass. In this metaphor, that compass is your intuition. Your intuition is what tells you what direction to point yourself in, what questions to ask, and whether or not the narratives you're using are still helpful for you. The questions you ask often determine how insightful the answer will be. I studied engineering and science in school, so I have an appreciation for how useful the scientific process can be. One of the things I really appreciate about Zen practice is that, like science, it asks you to scrutinize and question every single one of your beliefs and assumptions about reality. Every narrative, every unquestioned assumption and postulation you have about reality must be questioned as if it's a hypothesis, until it's absolutely proven or falsified. In Buddhism, there are sutras which contain the teachings of Buddha, and some Buddhists believe it's only necessary to follow the teachings. Zen insists that you question everything that you've ever been taught, even the words of Buddha and all of your teachers, until you can prove it to yourself. Buddhists often talk about how karma means that you should do good things to attain merit. In Western culture, I also hear people say, when I create good karma, good things happen. And I recently heard someone say that the universe has their back. Does the universe have your back? On the flip side, when something bad happens, I hear people say, oh, the universe is trying to teach me something. I wonder, Could that be true? Or is that just another convenient fiction? What do your observations tell you? Does the universe care? If so, what is it trying to teach you? If you do everything you think is morally and ethically right, or everything society praises, can bad things still happen? My own observations tell me, good or bad, everyone gets sick, everyone grows old, and everyone encounters difficulty in their life. This happens no matter what you do or how other people judge it. Some people often also ask, why do bad things happen to good people? A lot of Buddhists might say it's karma from their past life. Maybe. But to me, that just sounds like another convenient fiction. One that encourages people to act compassionately, and maybe that's fine, but my own observations tell me something else. No matter what kind of life you live, good or bad, if you're alive, you'll experience suffering. That aligns with Buddha's own teachings. He said life is marked by suffering. That's the first noble truth of the Four Noble Truths in the Pali Canon. Ultimately, you'll decide how to interpret all of these events you observe, and that will determine what you learn from them. The more you pay attention to the way things work and how things unfold, the more you'll learn, and the better off you'll be. Our descriptions of reality can be useful in helping us navigate the world, but every narrative we create about the way things are will also create biases which will ultimately limit our understanding. So how can you realize when your beliefs are limiting your own ability to see the truth? First, you need to always ask yourself that question. Secondly, you need to keep your mind clear so it's not being tainted by your emotions and your biases. Then you can learn to build trust in yourself and your intuition. So how can you do that better? How can you learn to trust your intuition so that you can rely on it to guide you in the right direction? How can you keep your mind clear? Zen teachings tell you that in order to keep your mind clear, you need to stay completely focused on whatever you're doing, to be fully present and to stay attentive to what's happening in every moment. This is what my Zen teacher taught me. And when I applied this knowledge to my life, it really worked and it made a big difference. But don't take my word for it. Test it out for yourself. Treat it like a hypothesis. Try staying completely focused on whatever you're doing and see what happens. Collect your own data. Here's another reason to try this out. There was a study of a while back from Harvard University where the researchers found that people were generally happier when they were fully focused on what they were doing, no matter what the activity was. When their minds wandered, their happiness declined. That also matches my experience. When I'm focused, life flows more smoothly. Even when things are difficult, the focus helps me stay steady. I can recognize that every situation is temporary, so I don't get overwhelmed and attached to the way things are. This way, I can move through discomfort without becoming entangled in it. When I embrace the idea that everything's always changing, I don't get too attached to what's happening. That helps me maintain balance, even through pain, sadness, and disappointment. When I experience disharmony, I understand that the sooner I focus my mind on the present moment, the sooner the unnecessary suffering fades. In order to do this effectively, it's helpful to develop tools that will help you focus better. And then you need to practice them so that you become effective at using the tools. You also need to apply these tools to your life and evaluate if they're working for you. After you've found the tools that work for you and tested them out, then you'll know that you can trust them. Then your intuition will remind you to use them when you need them. So, how do you develop and improve your own ability to focus? For me, I learned to focus by combining meditation with martial arts. My Zen teacher was also a martial arts teacher and a sword master. Martial arts was not only something that I enjoyed, but it demanded my full attention. I practiced for many hours every single day. At first, when I started, my biggest challenges were physical. But after I became physically proficient with the techniques, the biggest challenge was mental. Holding my focus through long periods of training took real effort. But gradually, that focus deepened. My body began to follow my intentions, and full concentration became second nature. Eventually, I was able to extend this level of focus to every part of my life. I could stay present while doing dishes, cleaning my room, working at my job, or talking with other people. My relationships improved. I became a better listener, a better communicator. I was more productive, and I felt more fulfilled. In truth, this is the core of my Zen training. I spent 16 years in a temple learning to focus completely in every moment. And that training is what changed my life. Still, life is not always ideal. But now, whenever a challenging situation in life comes up, my training kicks in. I have a process in place that I learned to trust. The routine of meditating and martial arts training that I've built into my day helps me to regain my focus, clear my mind, and keep it clear. Over time, I learned that if my mind's clear and I allow my emotions to settle down, I can trust my intuition, and I know 100% that I should follow it. Then I automatically know what actions I should take. It doesn't always work out exactly the way I think it will, but I've observed that this process produces better results in my life. So I've learned to trust it. Truthfully, it took me a lot of training just to be able to recognize my own mind state. Eventually, I was able to recognize the difference between when I was being overwhelmed by my thoughts and emotions or when my mind was clear. This helped me understand when I needed to meditate and train or when I was ready to take action. So, are you aware of when you're being overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions? Do you realize when you're dwelling on the past or worrying about the future? Do you know when your thoughts have created a narrative that's no longer serving you? Can you feel when your mind's wandering? How do all these different situations make you feel? Do you have any tools that you can rely on to calm you down and bring you clarity of mind? And do you practice them and keep them sharp so they're ready when you need them? These are questions only you can answer. I can only share what I've learned and what worked for me. This is how a teacher leads by setting an example, and the student must learn how to follow that example by applying what they've learned to the unique circumstances of their own life. It's not a script you can just follow. The lessons need to be filtered through your own unique experience and applied in the context of every moment of your life. After years of training, testing, and learning to trust this process, what I found is this. When I'm fully focused, I become aware of what's needed in each moment. I learned that when my mind is clear, I can trust my intuition. When I'm aligned within myself, I feel at peace with everything around me, no matter what's happening and regardless of the external circumstances. That harmony is priceless. If you're experiencing disharmony, that's a message that something is off. Pay attention to that feeling and try to understand why that's happening. It may be a sign that it's time to question some of your unexamined assumptions. My hope today is to impart this to you. Solving the puzzle of how our life fits within our reality requires a deep understanding of how everything is connected. To resolve this puzzle, you'll need to be able to piece together everything you know while also recognizing the inherent limits of your knowledge. The key to attaining this level of awareness relies on your ability to focus and have clarity in every moment. Applying this type of focus to your own life will give you the intuitive wisdom to understand how to align all of your actions with your purpose. But don't just take my word for it. You need to test it out for yourself to find out if it works for you. I hope my story will inspire you to treat this idea as your hypothesis for your life. If the answer to your hypothesis brings you harmony, it's useful. If you're experiencing disharmony, it's important to ask yourself why. So I'll leave you with one final question. Does complete focus in each moment bring you greater harmony? Yes or no? Try it. Test it out and observe what happens. Keep track of what's happening. I wish you good luck and good fortune, and I hope it's a fruitful experiment that yields useful information and more harmony in your life. And I will definitely take some questions if anybody has any. Yes.
So when you say observe if this is creating, this narrative is creating harmony or disharmony in your life, what do you mean by in practice? What is harmony in your life or disharmony in your life? How do you know that? What do you mean by harmony and disharmony in your life?
Harmony and disharmony. What do I mean by that? I guess more than anything, it's an internal feeling, but it's often harmony is like when things seem to fall into place, and it's producing and your life is improving, things are getting better. I think of that as disharmony, or harmony, excuse me. Disharmony is the opposite, like when you're doing things and they're constantly not working out in the way you expected them to. So that's a good sign that maybe, like something you think is the way it's working is not actually working out that way. But that's also useful information, because then you can change the way you're viewing it and your perspective and see if you're missing something. But how do you change your perspective is another question, and one of the best ways I can think of to do that is to meditate, to take a step back, to try and put down your thoughts, put down your emotions, put down your feelings. Those things can definitely taint the way you're seeing things, and sometimes they obscure the reality of the situation. Yeah, it's more of an internal feeling, like are things, I'm trying to think of another word besides harmonious, but like are things, yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily always easy, because you could be working really hard and having, things work out. Like, yeah, I'm gonna use another metaphor for you. So it's like if you're gardening and you plant a bunch of seeds and they don't grow, then you're going to be suffering from hunger or, not having the flowers around you. But if they grow, you have flowers, you have fruit, you have all these things that come to you from that process. So in your life, these hypotheses are like seeds. Like, you're putting them out there, testing if they work. The testing is kind of the work part, like, watering the garden, flowering, weeding, seeing if they do come up and flower in the way you thought they would. It's a good question. I don't feel like I had a great answer for what harmony is, other than I think the best way is like, how is that making you feel? Like, is it making you feel like things are falling into place, or is it making you feel like everything's getting worse and chaotic? Or
And that's hard in itself to really feel without the bias of fear and the narrative and this, that, to really feel whether something gives you that feeling of harmony or disharmony. Because then you can always have people, I don't know, a lot of people have this narrative, I'm not good enough, for example. And that narrative of not good enough is going to create a certain like fear or not being able to really listen if something is creating harmony because it's like I'm not good at the narrative. So, and it's already really hard to figure out that you have a narrative, and it's even harder to like, okay, now what to do with it. So what do you like? I know it's a long question, but like, I guess what would you recommend? What would you say? I know these are pretty scientific, but in your talk,
what to do as far as like if someone is experiencing fear or
it's hard to figure out what the narratives are. So I guess to know whether it's harmonious or not harmonious, you need to have a clear mind, and then to be at least able to drop some of the narratives that you're telling ourselves. Otherwise, even then, like, if it's harmonious or not harmonious, it's not going to be easy to figure out. So how do we even get to know what the narratives that we're telling ourselves are?
Okay, that's a great question. How do we get to know what the narratives that we're telling ourselves are? Because there can be a lot of, like you were saying, fear, ways we deceive ourselves. Yeah, so I think sometimes to get there, you don't necessarily know why you're feeling a certain way. Like, why do you feel discomfort when a certain topic comes up, for instance, or when you're in a certain social situation, something like that. I think one good way to get to find out what might be happening is not to look to like what's externally happening, but why do I feel that way? Ask yourself that question. Maybe ask yourself when the first time I felt that way is. And that, I don't expect that those kind of answers are going to come to you very quickly. Sometimes they might. But if you come up with an answer and it still keeps happening, then maybe you got to question if that answer is fully correct. And what I would suggest doing is just holding that question in your mind, planting it, and meditate and focus on what you're doing, but just planting that seed in your mind, then just giving it the space it needs to grow. Then it might be something else that triggers a realization, oh, now I understand what happened. And I think it's not easy to get to those to unravel the ways you can deceive yourself. But I think if you ask that question about those areas of discomfort, about those areas of discontent, why you feel that way, and you can always find an external reason for why you feel that way. But I think it's very important if it's a recurring thing that's happening and it's not like a one-time incident, like, why do I feel angry? Because someone cut me off in traffic. Like, that makes sense, right? But if it's like some topic that keeps coming up that makes you feel a certain way, or some social situation, or some sort of anxiety that you're getting, or fear, ask yourself why you feel that way. And I think a lot of times when you understand the unconscious things that are triggering that feeling, then you can come up with a better way to deal with that situation. And it might take multiple iterations, because you might come up with some answers and then still not be there. So be prepared to go through that process and keep going. Sometimes I think it takes a while to unearth what the real root cause of things, especially if it's something that, happened to you a long time ago. A lot of people, things happen to them when they're kids, they carry it to them when they're adults. And a lot of times they even block it out of their mind, like what happened to them. They don't think about it ever. They kind of section it off and put it deep down away in their memories. But I think sometimes, because as a child, you don't have a way to rationalize or think through these things. But as an adult, I think it can be useful to look even back that far to your childhood to find out what's going on. Or, yeah, like I said, the first time you experienced that feeling. Any more questions? Let me see what's in the chat here. So, few comments, no questions in there. Yeah, as someone said, sometimes they can tell when their mind is wandering and bring it back under control, but sometimes they also just let it flow freely within reasonable boundaries. Yeah, I think that is fair. Sometimes it's good to just give in to your curiosity. That's another thing I think a lot of times we lose track of, is unrestricted curiosity and just following that. I think that can also sometimes be a source of harmony for people. Well, let me see. I think that might be it for the chat here. Any more questions? Well, if that's it, I guess I'm just going to make my usual announcements that this is on the third Thursday of every month. The next one will be July 17th from 7 to 8. I also have a guided meditation. It's usually on the first Thursday of every month. In July, it's going to be on the first Wednesday of July, which is July 2nd from 7 to 8 p.m. That's due to the 4th of July holiday. I just figure people will be scattering by the 3rd. And I also host the Zen art and writing groups here, where we practice meditation through art and our writing projects. And I also offer guidance on how to use meditation as a source of inspiration for all of your creative endeavors. The writers and poets, the writing group's called the Zen Writers and Poets Society, and it's held on the second and fourth Sunday of every month from 3:30 to 5. So the next one will be this Sunday, June 22nd, and then the next one's on July 13th. The Zen Art Group is the third Sunday of every month, same time, 3:30 to 5. That will be on July 20th. And you can bring any type of art project you want to work on. And if you're interested in learning a new art form, I also teach private sword and martial arts classes as a form of moving meditation. So if you want information on any of these, you can check out our webpage or our meetup page. The website is at mindlightway.org, and it's the Zen Art Center meetup page. And you don't need any prior experience for any of these classes. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. And in closing, the Mind Light Way School of Zen's 501c3 nonprofit, and we try to keep all of our classes free and open to the public, but we do rely solely on to be able to continue to offer these classes. So if you found value and you would like to support the school, you can find information on how to make a donation on the back table here or in the description for the video on YouTube. All of the information's there, and we greatly appreciate your support and generosity in supporting us, and I greatly appreciate everybody coming out and attending, leaving comments, and asking questions. And if you're here, you're invited to hang out and chat for a little bit. But thanks for coming and supporting the school.